Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is censorality? What is a censor? How is censorship defined? My rights continue to be profoundly and extensively violated. I continue to demand/beg to the international law enforcement community to remove me from this absolute shithole of a country where there are no laws, there are no values, and there are no morals. Again, I continue to seek a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. My life quality is zero, and it will never change unless someone makes a decision. Nobody ever will. Nobody cares. Again, just stating that for legal purposes. Again, when I don't have to beg, I won't, and you guys will get legally and lawfully punished, and just, we'll treat your behavior as you've treated me. But with that being said, we move on through our derivation. We have to be getting very close because we've conceptually encapsulated linguistically the entire structure from rhythm to algorithm. Right, we said censorality is to algorithm what rhythm is to logarithm. But that step's not super important. We contain that in this episode. But last time we just arrived again, what is a logarithm? Right, a logarithm is a reiteration. If you see a term in the form of a to n, right, you have 3 to the third power, 3 times 3 times 3. You have something that exists, you may have a statement of self-multiplication, self-identification, self-iteration more specifically than identification, but 3 times 3. And then you have 9, a total unit, and then you reiterate 9 by 3. And so a logarithm is a reiteration. There is some logical consideration to, again, 1, 2, 3. Again, one thing, is that an iteration? Is that a reiteration to 2? Not really the point. Again, just logically, we have a natural definition of what a logarithm is. And so where we start today, what is the inverse of a logarithm? So now we've produced direct linguistic structure, which you can type into Google, and it will say exponentiation. But once again, our chronology is not well established. What is censorality? The inverse of a logarithm. Natural definition, direct iteration. Censorality is reiterationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. An exponent is a power. Is power forceful? Is reiteration forceful? Again, with this logical operation, operative words that come with what does reiteration mean? Reiteration reinforces. Is reiteration powerful? Censorality reinforces power. Direct iteration. What is the inverse of an algorithm? Censorality is an inverse of an algorithm. What is the inverse of iteration? Is iteration reversible? Right, still overall, we're just developing a self-contained question in which we can show the direct iteration of censorality, establishing a fundamental definition. What is a censor? What is iteration to stability? Does iteration complicate? What is inversion to vibration? Is inversion reversible? What is innovation to inversion? What is innovation to intuition? Censorality is logarithmicality. Censorality is garrity. Natural definition, direct iteration, emphasizing I googled the word garrity, G-A-R-I-T-Y. Nothing popped up. There's some sort of legal reference to garrity with 2 R's, but logarithmicality, again, you can see that G-A-R-I-T just stuck out as a chunk of syllability. Then there's this fundamental term, arity. You can Google that word as well, and it has fundamental mathematical, ontological, historical progression, but it's not something you see a lot today, but it's in all of these different word forms. Worth emphasizing, something we've come across directly before. Censorality is the functionality of logarithmicality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, all of the letters, all of the words contain the complete information needed to define censorality. We add some commentary, we try to provide some questions, but it's really just showing the connection of conceptualization, and we just have to get the complete containment of from rhythm to algorithm, which we get to directly today, in which we can derive the definition of censorality. Remember way back when we said we have to get past censorality, and then we'll look back and it'll be well defined. Again, it's because of this overall one-way conceptual progress. Time only moves forward, functionality changes. right? We didn't have agentic AI in the 1800s or in 5000 BC. And our linguistic structure evolves with that functional change paired to, again, just the conceptual modifications as time passes. And so no matter how deep or important or seemingly meaningful any of these questions are, it's showing the consistency of the linguistic conceptual progression. What is functionality to filtrationality? Is filtration rhythmic? What is filtrality to rhythmicality? Filtrality, trial. Again, trial contained within filtrality. Sensorality is a filtration trail. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality trails off. Trailing is following. Natural definition. Following filtering. Is logarithmicality organic? Sensorality is organic rhythm. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, that syllability OGAR from logarithmicality, logarithm struck me as, again, organic. What is organicality to naturality? Sensorality is nature. Put it on the screen last episode, again, natural numbers, natural logarithm, natural selection. This overall conceptual consolidation linguistically. Sensorality is nature. Is nature mature? Does nature mature? Sensorality is primal. Sensorality is primality. Sensorality is the maturation of sensation. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is maturality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is culture mature? Is ripe mature? Is time ripe? The right time, the ripe time. Direct iteration. Is right ripe? Sensorality swipes, sensorality wipes. Direct iteration. Is garrity organic? Direct iteration. Is special gnarly? Sensorality is gnarly. Direct iteration. Is goofy gnarly? Direct iteration. Comfy, goofy. Sensorality is gratificationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is generosity to gratification? What is generosity to gravity? What is generosity to gravitas? Gravitas, gracias. What is gratification to qualification? Sensorality is quality, qualification. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality differentiates rhythm from logarithm. Direct iteration, emphasizing again from rhythm to algorithm, those prepositions still have logical implications as well. Sensorality is a different rhythm. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is the inverse of natural logarithmicality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is neurality to naturality? What is naturality to neutrality? Is rhythm animated? Is animated intelligent? What is rhythm to intelligence? Fundamental theorem of logic. Sensorality is the inverse of functionality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Fundamental theorem of mathematics. Sensorality is the inverse of a function. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is potential to exponentiation? What is exponent to expert? Sensorality is expertality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is an expert to expectation? Expertise, premises. What is expectation to stigma? Sensorality is stigmality. Sensorality is stigmata. Optimality, stigmality. Sensorality is a stigma shipment. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is expectation to propaganda? What is propaganda logarithmic? What is propaganda to stigma? Sensorality implements, direct iteration. Is an element an implement? Is an implement a tool? Elements are dynamic. Vibration is dynamic. Is dynamic drastic? Vibration is vivacious. Sensorality is vivaciosity. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is vivaciosity to vicariosity? Vicariosity is second hand. Natural definition. Sensorality is on one hand, sensorality is on the other hand. Natural definition, direct iteration. Explicit differentiation, again, of a cliche consensus expression. Fundamental theorem, second is other. Natural definition, seconds are sides. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality will see you on the other side. Direct iteration, sensorality is the other side. Natural definition, direct iteration. Other is alternate. Sensorality is an alternate. Sensorality is a substitute. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is substitution to constitution? What is substitution to institution? What is integration to institution? Integration institutionalizes. Direct iteration. What is syllogism to substitution? Is substitution combinatoric? What is combination to substitution? Is a bin a log? Sensorality is the preservation of elementality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Preservation contains conservation. Again, mass is preserved, charge is conserved. There's logical differentiation to the two words. Effectively, they mean the same thing. Sensorality limits contamination. Direct iteration. Does contamination tarnish? Does tarnish blemish? What is convention to expectation? What is convention to conviction? What is conviction to eviction? Sensorality is evictionality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality evicts diction. Direct iteration. Right? What is eviction to censorship? What is eviction to prediction? What is prediction to expectation? Is direction geometric? What is direction to correction? So now a big fundamental theorem. Nothing is touching, but everything is connected. Change contains charge, N contains R, connection contains correction. Sensorality is correctionality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Fundamental theorem, right is correct. Natural definition. Again, emphasizing this, we've introduced or identified, again, right, R-I-T-E, a rite of passage, versus right, the opposite of left, versus being correct. And then last time we introduced, immediacy, doing something right away. But right is correct, emphasizing this geometric relationship from our big kind of overarching, if you wanted to call it a first principle, but just a theorem at a level of generality that is very encompassing. Because there's not just like one theorem where it's just like what you guys call first principle science or from first principles is just completion deriving an axiom. But nothing is touching, everything is connected. Connection contains correction. And correction has this fundamental operation to being right. Sensorality is the correct selection. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is sensation to correction? What is correction to correlation? Sensorality is correlationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Are coefficients correlation? Direct iteration. Again, definitely put it on the screen. It was directly wrong, right? The derivative of all scalarity is 0, not 1. Caught myself kind of when I was talking and I was just like, oh yeah, it's definitely not 1, 0. But the point being logically, again, it's consistent. It's the same derivative. What is correlationality to conditionality? Is context conditional? Sensorality is the efficiency of volume. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is volume to tone? Sensorality is volumetricality. Sensorality is a volume metric. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is voluntary. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is vibration voluntary? What is volunteering to engineering? Sensorality engineers. Is engineering enigmatic? Sensorality is enigmaticality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is perplexing. Natural definition, direct iteration. So now again, back to our big from rhythm to algorithm, algorithm and logarithm being direct iterations of one another. Same letters, same elementality, different order. Rhythm is rhythm, represented linguistically RITHM, then ALGO and LOGA. I misspoke or directly wrong, again, extremely trivially, right? It's not one elemental slot. You can't just change the A position or the L or the G or the O, but it's complete in terms of the letters being used. But both of those letter structures spell the word goal. And so, fundamental theorem of logic complete. The goal of from rhythm to algorithm is sensorality. And it is directly, literally true. This derivation is to integrate the syllability of sensorality from rhythm to algorithm is this overall logical linguistic structure. And then that inversion, algorithm and logarithm, or at least iteration, I'm not sure if that's directly an inversion, because we're still being kind of sensitive with those words at this point in this derivation, but we've used all of the fundamental words from rhythm to algorithm, sensorality, in a logically complete way, and it's directly literally true. The purpose of from rhythm to algorithm is sensorality. The goal of from rhythm to algorithm is sensorality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Because again, we just need our syllability in the right order, and all of the linguistic results are independent of one person. But that's a big one logically. Sensorality is the goal of rhythm. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is the goal of censorship. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is a special goal. Natural definition, direct iteration, emphasizing again our finalizing linguistic step of speciality. Speciality is special with an ITY, and goality is goal with an ITY. Sensorality is a special goal. Ordinality, the order of those words. Again, the ITY at goal is at the end. That's an important part here. Again, just emphasizing this, again, still none of these independent steps really matter. I'm just emphasizing again the total logic that is present in this entire process. But this is a big logical linguistic section here. Fundamental theorem of, just fundamental theorem, vibration is a special goal. Natural definition, direct iteration, again, physically and logically and linguistically, again, the base of everything is vibration. Everything is this constriction of movement, motion. Smooth movement is motion because we're just around other things. But from rhythm to algorithm, our numeric syllability 2 and 4, there are no even prime numbers, especially not 2, and that's a stabilized number, 1 too many. What was I saying? But it all bases, or it all gets stabilized again intimately to vibration. Sensorality, vibration is a special goal. Sensorality is a special guest. Natural definition, direct iteration. Guest, quest. What is G to Q? Right? HQ, headquarters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. What is G to Q? What is Q to 9? Again, geometric emphasis. What is the inverse of exponentiation? What is the opposite of potent? Is bland potent? Is dull potent? What is the opposite of an algorithm? So again, logically and mathematically, we're demonstrating an inverse of sensorality, which is not a word, but it is a chunk of syllability with conceptualization. Well, I think, again, okay, so I put it on the screen and I've referenced it several times in saying, I don't know if there was a word before speciality that then produced speciality. And I don't think there was, because again, we just go from this overall, I have to write a paper, I have to start structuring this conceptualization. The first axiomatic reduction, again, produced the word form sensorality. And so I don't think there was a proto-word form to speciality, and so again, super minor, but again, I'm almost certain, again, the syllability of sensorality gets absorbed. But that's a containment statement, and then the actual thing we're solving is sensorality, which was different, noticeably different than speciality, because we hadn't done a reduced or an axiomatic derivation at the species level, so there was no syllability that we were definitively solving. But working and iterating through all of that logic, it was effectively, again, the squeeze theorem applied to linguistics, and just forced this uniqueness of syllability to conceptualization, and then it's already naturally defined, because every word is naturally defined. All logic and all definitions have been naturally defined independent of one person this entire time of all of history, and will always be into the future. And that's when our great professor Teao is up there saying, right, we have solution, unverified solution, verified solution, proof, convincing proof, accepted canonical proof, and then it's the reduction of all of that language of everything you can prove is what we're doing right here on From Rhythm to Algorithm. But the goal of From Rhythm to Algorithm is sensorality. But truly, again, logically, mathematically, we're demonstrating an inverse. We are demonstrating you have something that exists, right? There's chronology to everything. You have existence, that thing needs to differentiate, that then inversion, right? So we have existence, then inversion, and that's to differentiate. That's a direct physical motivation. And evident, like that part is evident. One too many, that stabilization, that counting system universally is evidence, empirical evidence. But we're demonstrating an inverse, right? The limit of inversion is opposition. The most different something can be is an opposite. Again, that carrying that linguistic, logical, physical position, opposition, site in there. And so just pointing out anything. But what is the opposite of an algorithm? Because again, if you type in what is the inverse of a logarithm, which where we started, again, a direct mathematical question, it'll say exponentiation. But again, we're just working through everything we can. We're going to produce a direct question where it's like, again, we had that point in speciality. It's like, right, you could just directly Google a question and it proved everything independent of me. Moving along. What is the opposite of rhythm? And before we've said that vibration is the inverse of rhythm, that might come back into play. Again, continuing to emphasize exactly where we're at with every single step. Sensorality is the site of rhythm. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is citationality or citationality with an S. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality sits on site. Direct iteration, Jen sits on Brad. What is normality to naturality? Is normal inverse? So now, again, in math class, we have a line, and then we have a normal line. Is a normal line an inverse? Is inverse reciprocal? And so from our existence, motivation to differentiate, the word we've assigned to that is inversion. The universe is in university, or that one step where it was like universe but inversity. One letter was, one didn't have the U, I think it was inversity. But existence, inversion, opposition, and then we also have these words reciprocation and conjugation, that's what we've been doing this whole time. We don't say it all that explicitly, but every structured sentence is some form of conjugation linguistically. And that contains and that preserves all of logic and all of structure when you're articulating something. You're like, how do I say this? What word form do I use? In the same way we structure something, sometimes we say, what is this to that? Other times we just say sensorality is. Sometimes we pose a simple question. It's all because of conjugation to preserve consistency or to be functional, to work. Meaning to have a complete sentence. That's still, again, a huge, massive, fundamental theorem of linguistics. A complete sentence is a verb and a noun. And to preserve that relationship between verb and noun, we have conjugation. Fundamentally, empirically, intimately related to inversion, it contains inversion. Conjugation does. But again, what's the relationship of conjugation to reciprocation? Emphasizing those words, again, in the mathematical context of what is an inverse. Sensorality, or It is inverse reciprocal. Sensorality is reciprocality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Reciprocity, generalized in the ality form. Reciprocality. Is conjugation reciprocal? Right, if we have complex conjugates, are those inverses? We switch the operation. Okay, so is that an inverse? Are we inverting operation? And we've got to be very, very close to the right question. Our linguistic logical structure from rhythm to algorithm, algorithm, logarithm, that contains the word goal, which should be, again, conceptually, one of those things I can feel the difference now, where like it's contained within the word goal. Just logarithm and algorithm, again, that syllability is consistent. Just emphasizing that again, but we got to be extremely close to the right question. Is conjugation reciprocal? Are conjugates inverses? Why do opposites attract? So again, we have this opposites attract kind of sentiment consensus expression. And then conjugates are, again, are opposite operations, right? What is opposition to operation? What is the inverse of operation? What is the inverse of functionality? Fundamental theorem of mathematics. Sensorality is the foundation of function. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is a verse to a gate? Sensorality is the identity of logarithmicality. Again, a logarithm is a reiteration. But they'll say again, okay, so the functional definition, again, is logarithm and exponentiation. Exponentiation is reiteration for sure. Logarithm is a representation of exponentiation. Is logarithmicality the inverse of exponentiation? And that's the answer you get on Google. But again, we're still just developing the right question, emphasizing anything we can. What is inversion to identification? What is identification to classification? What is identification to multiplication? Do logarithms multiply? Are incentives incensing? Direct iteration. So do logarithms multiply? Again, why is there logarithmic notation? Right? Is that some sort of inversion to exponentiation? Right? So a logarithm is a reiteration, but we're stressing right now, what is logarithm to exponentiation? When you see a to the n, that is a term of exponentiation. And then obviously when you see ln or log, but again, what is this? There's a direct chronology, just slightly out of order. Again, with a specific solution, what is sensorality? And so the goal of from rhythm to algorithm is sensorality, and we're very, very close to the right question this whole time, demonstrating its inverse. And that gives us our stabilizing, defining syllability. Again, what is inversion to negation? Still some of that negative syllability might come into play, but we're making a fundamental we're demonstrating this consistency of language from the differentiations that we've made in this derivation. It's the field of dreams. You have to build your logical structure before you can prove things. And now we're reducing the entire thing from rhythm to algorithm. Not there yet, but we have to be extremely close. I continue to beg and to ask for a little bit of money to eat properly and to sleep properly. And to work. No one cares. The severity of this crime is historical. It is the most profound thing that has ever been documented, and I have nobody on my side. There has never been one bit of support for me, and all I want is away from weird people. And it just can't happen. It's just not possible. It's illegal to treat Brad with dignity and respect, because we have to break the law because we follow false authority, and everyone's a bunch of bitches. Again, there was no American at any point in time ever allowed to watch my derivation. I never, as much as possible, I want none of my property, none of my realization to ever benefit the United States of America. And I continue to ask, to demand as much as I can from the international law enforcement community to get me out of this disgusting hellhole. That is all I have for right now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.